Well, Fawzia Koofi is the Afghan Parliament's Deputy Speaker and the only female candidate for the 2014 presidential elections. She joins us now from Kabul to discuss the security agreement signed by Hamid Karzai and President Obama today. Fawzia Koofi, can I first ask you, are you satisfied with the details of this strategic partnership agreement on how the US will support Afghanistan after the troops are withdrawn in 2014?
Well, I think that Afghanistan needs to have a longer-term partnership with international community, particularly with the United States, in a way that both countries are victims of terrorism, and they have a joint mission and a joint vision when it comes to counter-terrorism. So the two countries need to have a longer-term strategic partnership. However, in the current partnership which has just been signed, there is no indication of the permanent basis of the US in Afghanistan, which is good. Many people in Afghanistan are sensitive when it comes to the permanent basis. In the meantime, in the strategy, you see that both countries are regarded as sovereign, equal countries, and this is something people of Afghanistan are proud of, having a sovereign and equal country with the superpowers. But in the meantime, I think there are some lacking of clarities. For instance, it doesn't specify whether the strong commitment of United States when it comes to support of Afghan military forces after 2014. It says the United States shall seek funding, and there is no guarantee. And this is a concern we have in terms of the troops and Afghanistan security after 2014, when the international community and NATO troops withdraw from Afghanistan. The concern is if there is no strong guarantee about security in Afghanistan, we might face the return of Taliban.
Well, you're openly critical of President Karzai. In fact, you want to replace him at the 2014 elections. How would you conduct relationships with NATO if you were in the position of president?
I think NATO can, leave Afghanistan, but that departure should be gradual and responsible departure, as President Obama just said. I don't think 2014 is the right year. First of all, because it's important year in terms of having political transition. We will have an presidential election in 2014. In the meantime, there is a military transition, like international community leaves Afghanistan. These two events are so important and critical for Afghanistan's future of democracy in this country. I think one will undermine the other. That's why I think we need to have a strong government in 2014. And once the elections are conducted and there is an assurance that there is a strong leadership that could take responsibility of many internal issues as well as regional issues, then international community can start gradual withdrawal from Afghanistan. But the two issues happening at the same time in 2014, from my points of view, it will result, a mass in Afghanistan, because first of all, our neighboring countries are reshaping themselves to influence Afghanistan after 2014. Second, the peace process with Taliban has not resulted really peace, or at least beginning of a healthy dialogue with Taliban. And second, and third, an important one, if we don't have a political transition, just withdraw the troops or putting one flag up and the other flag down, which is what's happening right now in transition, is not going to result peace in Afghanistan. I think Afghanistan needs to have a longer-term relationship with NATO, because we are both victims of terrorism.
Well, you've mentioned the Taliban, of course, as demonstrated today with the attack by two suicide bombers which killed at least 6 people in Kabul. Clearly the most immediate threat to security is from the Taliban. Now, once NATO leaves, how will that situation transpire? Do you support negotiations with the Taliban?
I do support peace, because peace is a principle, and I don't think anybody in this world will oppose peace. But there is a difference between peace and reconciliation with Taliban. I think reconciliation and negotiation, which is being undertaken by the Afghan government and the United States government, is not going to result, as it is going right now, is not going to result peace in Afghanistan. First of all, this is not inclusive process. The political opponents, civil society, women activists in Afghanistan are not involved in this process. Second, we don't know who are we talking, what are the issues that we are going to achieve, what are the issues that we are going to lose, what are the values that Taliban will accept with us, what are those issues that Taliban will not accept with us. Right now the government is talking with Taliban from a position of weakness. We need to talk to Taliban from a position of power, and that will only happen if we have a strong government in place, if we have a government that is able to fight corruption, that is able to bring rule of law, and that's able to deliver social services inside Afghanistan and kind of win the hearts and minds of its inhabitants. And then it can go to talk to Taliban from a position of power. It's actually the government of Afghanistan. We should be the one who should present conditions to Taliban. But at the moment, it's Taliban who present conditions to us. And I don't think this will actually result peace. It might result bringing some of Taliban back, but that does not mean peace. So that's why I think we need to have an inclusive process being led by either UN or other international mandatory organizations who could give an assurance to Afghan people that Afghan constitution, civil rights of Afghan people will not be compromised as a result of peace process.
Well, obviously you have a deep distrust of the Taliban. After all, they tried to kill you.
The message we always get in response to peace with Taliban is violence and more assassination and more suicide attacks. I was not the only one who was so many times targeted by Taliban. If you look at last year, they assassinated so many great leaders of Afghanistan. So many leaders who have a lot of influence in Afghanistan politics. In response to peace process, what we hear from Taliban is more assassination, more killing of civilian, more terrorist acts. So that's why I don't trust that they will actually, they and their supporters are honest. And I don't think that actually Taliban are just an Afghan phenomenon. I think there are a lot of regional dimensions to this issue, and one has to look at it from a regional perspective, not just an Afghan issue.
Fawzia Koofi, unfortunately time has beaten us. Thank you very much for your time.